When a well-known liberal professor from a prestigious university challenged Barron Trump to a public debate, he expected an easy win. After all, he was a seasoned academic with decades of experience, and Barron was just a young man who had mostly stayed out of the political spotlight. But what happened next left the professor and the audience completely stunned. It all started when Dr. Jonathan Reeves, a vocal critic of the Trump family and a self-proclaimed champion of progressive ideals, made a bold statement during a lecture. He claimed that Barron Trump, despite his famous last name, had no real understanding of politics, economics, or history. His students, eager to see their professor prove his point, encouraged him to extend a debate challenge to Barron publicly. Confident in his intellectual superiority, Dr. Reeves took to social media and posted, "Barron Trump, if you truly believe in your family's policies, I challenge you to a live debate on history, economics, and political philosophy. Let's see if you can hold your own without a teleprompter." The post quickly went viral. Some laughed at the idea, dismissing Barron as nothing more than the son of a former president, while others called the challenge out for being unfair. After all, Barron had never presented himself as a political figure. But to everyone's surprise, Barron accepted the challenge. His response was short and direct. "Let's do it. Name the time and place." The debate was scheduled at a university auditorium, packed with students, faculty, and media representatives eager to witness what they assumed would be an intellectual dismantling of the youngest Trump. Dr. Reeves walked onto the stage with a smirk, adjusting his glasses as he prepared to humiliate his opponent. But as soon as Barron Trump took his seat, it became clear that the professor had severely underestimated him. Dressed sharply in a tailored suit, Barron exuded confidence. He didn't fidget, didn't hesitate, he was prepared. And as soon as the moderator opened the floor, Barron wasted no time in making his presence felt. Dr. Reeves began with a condescending tone, asking Barron if he even understood the basics of economic theory. But Barron, rather than getting flustered, responded with a calm and articulate breakdown of Keynesian versus Austrian economics, citing historical case studies and real-world examples. The audience, which had initially leaned in favor of the professor, started murmuring in surprise. Trying to regain control, Dr. Reeves shifted to social issues, pressing Barron on policies from his father's administration. Again, Barron didn't falter. He countered each argument with facts, statistics, and historical parallels. When Dr. Reeves brought up the topic of immigration, Barron cited legal precedents and economic data that left the professor visibly uncomfortable. At one point, Dr. Reeves attempted to interrupt Barron mid-sentence, but Barron simply raised his hand slightly and said, "If you don't mind, I'd like to finish my point." The audience erupted in applause. It was clear who was now in control of the debate. Then came the moment that sealed Dr. Reeves's regret. In a last-ditch effort to salvage his position, he attempted to ridicule Barron, saying, "You're just repeating what you've heard at the dinner table. Do you even have original thoughts?" Without missing a beat, Barron smiled and replied, "I find it ironic that you question my ability to form independent thoughts while you stand behind a podium, repeating the same progressive talking points that have failed countless times throughout history. If I'm only repeating what I've heard at the dinner table, then perhaps you're only repeating what you've read in an echo chamber." The room fell silent for a moment before breaking into applause. Dr. Reeves was visibly shaken, his confident smirk replaced with frustration. He attempted to counter, but his words stumbled, and he found himself unable to recover. The once dismissive crowd was now nodding along with Barron, many impressed by his poise, knowledge, and ability to hold his own against a seasoned academic. By the end of the debate, the outcome was undeniable. Dr. Reeves, who had walked in, expecting an easy victory, left the stage humiliated. Barron Trump, on the other hand, had just made a statement, one that no one saw coming. As the event ended, social media exploded with reactions. Clips of the debate spread like wildfire, with many praising Barron's composure and intellect. Even some of the professor's own students admitted that their professor had been outmatched. For Dr. Reeves, the debate was supposed to be a moment of triumph, a chance to prove that the young Trump was nothing more than a privileged name. Instead, it turned into a lesson in humility. And for Barron Trump, it was a defining moment, one that proved he was far more than just his father's son. As the night ended, journalists scrambled to get reactions from those who had witnessed the unexpected intellectual showdown. Reporters crowded Barron as he exited the auditorium, eager to get his thoughts on the debate. One journalist asked, "Did you expect it to go this way?" Barron gave a slight smile and replied, "I came prepared. I respect healthy debate, but I think tonight proved that underestimating someone based on assumptions is never a wise strategy." Meanwhile, Dr. Reeves avoided the press entirely. His once proud demeanor was gone, replaced by a hurried walk and a clear desire to escape the situation. Some of his supporters tried to defend him online, claiming the debate was unfair, that Barron had been coached, or that the professor had simply had an off night. But the footage of the event told a different story, one that couldn't be spun or ignored. Within hours, the internet exploded with memes, video edits, and commentary, dissecting every moment of the debate. Phrases like, "If you don't mind, I'd like to finish my point," became viral slogans. Prominent commentators, some who had never spoken about Barron before, began discussing how the youngest Trump had just made a name for himself in an entirely new way. Even those who didn't necessarily agree with Barron's views admitted that he had handled himself impressively. One political analyst on a major news network stated, "No matter what you think of his family, tonight Barron Trump proved he's a force to be reckoned with." As for Dr. Reeves, his reputation took a major hit. In the following days, he attempted to do damage control by giving interviews, claiming the debate had been misrepresented. He insisted that he had been set up and that Barron's responses were rehearsed. But these excuses only made things worse. His critics pointed out that he was the one who had issued the challenge in the first place. If anyone had been unprepared, it was him. The university where Dr. Reeves taught also felt the ripple effects. Some students who had previously admired him began questioning his credibility. Enrollment in his classes even dropped the next semester. Meanwhile, invitations for Barron Trump to speak at various events started pouring in. Despite all the buzz, Barron remained relatively quiet in the weeks following the debate. He didn't engage in the online discussions, didn't gloat, and didn't take interviews. Those close to him said he was focused on his studies and personal ambitions. But whether he acknowledged it or not, one thing was certain: the debate had changed how the public saw him. For years, Barron Trump had largely stayed out of the limelight, overshadowed by the political storms surrounding his father. But one night, he stepped forward and proved he wasn't just a name, he was a mind to be respected. And for Dr. Reeves, what had started as a challenge ended in the one thing he never saw coming: absolute regret. In the days that followed, the debate became a cultural moment that extended beyond politics. Pundits, influencers, and everyday social media users continued dissecting every detail, debating not just the content of the discussion, but the deeper implications of what had transpired. Some commentators suggested that Barron's performance signaled a shift in how younger generations engaged with political discourse. Unlike the heavily partisan, emotionally driven arguments that often dominated public debates, Barron's calm, factual, and articulate approach resonated with many, even those who disagreed with him. It wasn't just about winning an argument, it was about raising the level of conversation. At the same time, Dr. Reeves struggled to recover from the humiliation. His credibility as a professor and intellectual had taken a serious blow. His students, many of whom had cheered him on before the debate, now questioned whether he had been as knowledgeable as they once believed. A few even confronted him in class, asking why he had underestimated Barron so badly. Some students transferred out of his courses, while others openly mocked him on campus, repeating Barron's now famous lines during discussions. Realizing the damage, Dr. Reeves attempted to shift the narrative. He scheduled an appearance on a popular news show to clarify what happened. Sitting across from the host, he tried to explain, "Look, I don't regret having the debate, but let's be honest, Barron Trump had help. His responses were polished. This wasn't some off-the-cuff conversation. It was a rehearsed performance." The host raised an eyebrow and countered, "So, you're saying he was too prepared? Isn't preparation part of debating? You issued the challenge. Shouldn't you have been just as prepared?" Dr. Reeves fumbled for a response, but the damage had already been done. His excuse came off as weak, even to those who were on his side politically. The debate had been live with no earpieces or teleprompters, and Barron had spoken with knowledge and confidence. The audience wasn't buying it. Meanwhile, the Trump family remained largely quiet on the situation. Donald Trump himself made a brief comment at a rally, grinning as he said, "I hear my son did a great job. Maybe we've got another Trump who's good at winning debates." The crowd erupted in cheers, but Barron himself avoided making any public statements beyond his initial post-debate remarks. Some speculated that this event could mark the beginning of a larger political career for Barron Trump. Would he follow in his father's footsteps? Would he enter politics, media, or perhaps something entirely different? No one knew for sure, but one thing was clear: he had just made an unforgettable first impression. Weeks after the debate, the buzz finally began to die down, but its impact remained. Barron Trump had proven himself to be an intellectual force, and Dr. Reeves had become a cautionary tale about underestimating an opponent. The debate was replayed on news networks, analyzed in think pieces, and even used in university rhetoric courses as an example of how preparation and composure could win arguments. And for Barron, he returned to his studies, unaffected by the noise. Whether or not he ever debated again, his performance that night had ensured one thing: no one would ever make the mistake of underestimating him again.